Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how I get my drum mixes. Alright, so after looking at myself for a second in my viewfinder, I see that I look very sad. I'm not. No one heard me. It's just how I am. Alright, so upon request, I'm going to go ahead and go over my drum mix. And as you heard in the intro, they sound pretty big in my opinion, and this is what they sound like soloed out. Not bad at all in my opinion, but I do tend to hide a lot of the massive drum mix behind post-processing, so I'll go ahead and show you that. So yeah, nothing too altering, just kind of adding more impact on hits that I want it to. So that is something to keep in mind when you are trying to get a massive drum mix and you don't really have the tools or knowledge on how to get there. Sometimes it is a bit tricky. If you're interested in where I got those samples, those are just like JST Chaos 1 and 2 snare bombs and hits, whatever you want to call them. But as for the actual mix itself, aside from the mastering chain, which I can't turn off unfortunately, or else you won't be able to hear anything, I have just I would not recommend mixing how I mix. So as you can see, I'm pulling down a lot of whistly frequencies. That is completely unnecessary, but this I stole from pretty much any metal mixer that you'll see these days. Geez, I sound old, but I'm 25. But it mostly stems from Nolly, and if he stole it from anywhere, then I wouldn't know. But basically, it's a decently fast attack, fast release, some threshold only to pull down when the snare hits. As you can see, mine is barely moving. And high pass around 100 just to, let the kick through unaffected. And virtual tape machines, this is all default except for the output. I unlinked it and pushed it up 4 dB. And aside from that, I'll go through my kick. So I was too lazy to blend kicks for this record or EP, so I just kind of used a kick sample that I downloaded. It's pretty massive sounding once you do some processing, but this is it raw. Doesn't really need it too much processing, to be honest, which is kind of why I chose it. Some EQ around the subs and where some of the muddiness would be, boosting a bit of the where the initial punch of the kick hits is where I'm boosting there, taking away some of the clicks. So I'll show you with and without that. Not too big of a difference, but it does help. Virtual tape machines, this is all default, so I'll kind of just do a quick A/B. Adding a lot of thud in that low end. Pro MB, you can use any multiband compression really, but this is just to kind of tame the low end from being like really built up when there's double kicks. And then I just have a revival and a distressor, so I'll kind of show what those are doing independently. So yeah, pretty much kicks you in the fucking head. As for the snare, I'll go over that briefly. I was also using a sample because again, I was too lazy for this EP, but this is what it sounds like raw. The snare sample with the room. And then really basic EQ. I was just getting rid of some of the weird frequencies I didn't like and just boosting where the attack of it was in both the body and the stick attack. So I'll just do a quick A/B of that. Not too big of a difference. And a distressor, just kind of fastest attack, fastest release, same as the kick. I think I actually copied and pasted it from the kick, so those settings are pretty much my go-tos. And just a drum leveler to kind of make the hits more consistent, because I found even though that it's a sample and I'm a brain dead idiot that kind of just programs all at 127, even then it was kind of poking up sometimes, so I just threw this on and it mitigated that pretty well. Did you see the shaking? It's still shaking. There's an earthquake. I guess my song is just that earth-shattering, huh? Anyway, aside from that, toms. So I don't use toms too often, but these were not samples, believe it or not. Alright, so this is a good spot for my toms, so kind of uses all of them, almost. And I tend to not compress them separately. I tend to compress them all together, and I generally use the same EQ on all of them. I just kind of move, you'll see. So for toms, I'll kind of put the low cut right where you'll like right where the visual is. Okay, I guess I don't use tom 1. So you'll see it's kind of going down and along that little drop off there, and then I'll just cut a lot of the body. Otherwise it sounds like this, as opposed to something more modern sounding, basically scooped toms instead of scooped guitars, and just some extra cutoff for the low frequencies. And for the distressor, I did the same exact settings. I just kind of pulled up the release so that they ring out just a little bit better. It kind of holds it in a little longer. And then for spot mics, I don't do too much. I just throw soothe on it, so I don't really need to show too much of that. And as you can see, I don't use spot mics very often. But yeah, there's just soothe on there. It's not really going to be too much. It's just the preset that Nolly has on soothe, the cymbal smooth. For overheads, I'm pretty much doing the same. I'm not doing too much different. I'm just aggressively cutting out some whistly frequencies, boosting some presence ish, and cutting off a lot of like where you can hear the stick really like slam into it. You can probably get around that by not, programming at 127 all the time, but. And then I have distressor, because that's my favorite compressor, and I did adjust this a little bit by ear. Bit of a fast attack, not too fast, not too slow, not really quite in the middle, a bit on the faster side, and a pretty quick release. And soothe, cymbal smooth, same as always. And with the kick and snare, I'll just show real quick. So I like to have my cymbals not loud, not quiet, but kind of behind the guitar, but not quite too behind the guitar, but a little bit above I don't know, man. I'm picky, so it makes me happy to know that some people like my mixing. As for rooms, I'll show that with the kick and snare as well, but just to go over it real quick, I'm cutting out a lot. I don't even know why. Let's get into why I did this. So this is without and then with. I'm going to be completely honest, I have no idea. I think I was trying to get rid of a lot of the low end information because I already had so much in the actual like sample itself that any more was kind of just overbearing. So I think this was my attempt to mitigate that. Then I have distressor. And you hear that sizzling? I didn't know how to fix that before. But now I can teach you guys a trick too. So throw on Pro MB, put it on expand. A little bit of a degradation in the high-end frequency response, but in my opinion, to not hear that sizzling when it's done, it's worth it. Then I have Soothe, Cymbal Smooth as per usual. Flatline 2, I believe this was from a preset. I think this was the Mick Gordon drum room comp, and I just kind of recreated it on my own. So that's why it says default, but it was a preset. I'll show you before and after. Pro MB for the mids. Why did I do that? But I'm pretty sure that was just because the snare was just way too loud when I added that compressor, so I brought that down that way. Skybox. Probably because I wanted it to be more spacey and some more EQ to dip out a lot of those weird frequencies I was hearing that were making it either muddy or too harsh. And then on these I just have the same basic presets I have on the overheads, so on the rooms I was using those as well. And if you throw that all together, you get something that sounds a little something like this. And so it also helps me a lot when I'm trying to get a good drum mix to actually hear what everything is adding, so I know I'm not going insane. So I will go ahead and just go through one by one and show you what everything is adding. So let me just go ahead and loop this part and go from there. So kick first. No toms here, unfortunately. I don't know why the spot mic's in there, but it works. And then in the mix, alright, and before this ends, I did get a question specifically on how I make the drums mesh with the bass, and I wish I had a clear answer, but I do have some tips. So as you can see, I don't quite do what everyone else does, and like, or at least what they tell you to do, where they'll say, oh well, the kick punches through around 60 to 50 hertz, so you have to cut that, and then you have to boost this, and I don't care. So a lot of the time I find a lot of the glue of your mix will come from those clashing frequencies. So if you're cutting where the kick is and then having the kick only present in that one side of the spectrum, it's not going to sound very glued. If anything, in my experience, it sounds more disconnected. So that's kind of why I'm not cutting anything around this spot, but I am boosting the subs and I am letting it kind of fall off around where the kick is going to be poking through, and then cutting out some of the muddiness. So I feel like what that's doing is not only boosting a lot of the low end that I like in my mixes, but it's also allowing the kick to kind of poke through where it needs to at the same time. Because around this area, I find kick drums, they do tend to have like a knock sound around that spot. So if I play my drums with the bass, you'll kind of hear what I'm talking about. So like you're not really hearing the low end thud of the kick as much as you are hearing the low end attack of the bass, but you are hearing that knocky kind of like punch. That, I don't even know what you would call that sound, but it's kind of like a knocky. And yeah, so that's kind of how I went around that issue. Another thing that you can actually do if you have Soothe, which I have been using a lot recently, at least the trick I've been using. So I'll put it on flat and hard, and then I will take my kick bus and I will side chain it into Soothe. So when I pull this up and pull that up just a random amount, so basically what that's doing is it's taking the kick track and it's taking all of the low end information that I'm making it more sensitive to, rather than less sensitive, more sensitive to the low end information of that particular signal, and it's ducking where it needs to. So it's letting the more of the low end frequencies of the kick shine through the bass. It's a bit more subtle on this example, but it does poke through. I promise. Alright, and that was my video. If you enjoyed it, good. I don't really want to ask, but if you would like, you can give this video a like and subscribe. That would be nice. Again, subscribe to the video. Come on. I don't know why I keep saying that. Anyway, I have some new music out. You can find that both right here and in front of my mug here. If this video was at all helpful, or if you would like to see more or have any suggestions, feel free to let me know and I'll do my best to cover it. And until then, thank you for watching, and bye-bye.